This video will demonstrate how to set up your iambic paddles, your key, and your bug on your Linux computer, how to interface it, and how to use it to send Morse code on your sound card and to your rig or on the internet to other people that are hooked up with you on Echolink, Mumble, Skype, WebRTC, through your browser. First, let's show you that it's actually working on Linux. I'm using Mint 17 and a program called Dahdidah, CW Keyer, which is a software program, and it works in Linux if you have Wine. And I'll go over that in a minute, but let's just show you how it works. My iambic paddles first. And now the straight key. And now the bug. One cool thing about Linux is, in dealing with wine and serial ports, is you can use the same serial port as long as you're not using the same pins. So that's why I have 3 instances of Dahdidah. One using the CTS and the DSR pin for the iambic paddles. For the dits, if you look to the right on pin 6 here, you'll see the red circle. And in the CTS for the DAs. And my paddle, dit and dah paddle, are hooked directly to the DTR as the ground, and the CTS and the DSR. So when you contact the DSR and the DTR, you get dits, and the CTS and the DTR, you get DAs. And I'll show you the hookup on a picture in just a second. Now, bringing up the second and third instances, we have the DCD pin that's free and the ring indicator pin that's free. So I have a straight key hooked to one and a bug hooked to the other. And so that means you can get all your Morse code instruments hooked up in Linux this way. So once you've downloaded Dahdidah, you're going to have to download Wine. And once you've downloaded Wine, you're going to have to do a few things. I have a USB to serial port adapter, and in order to get this to register on Linux, you have to jump through a few hoops, and then you have to jump through one more hoop to get it registered to Wine so that you can use it. So some links will be in the show notes, but I'll briefly go over what you have to do. So you plug it in, and then you take it out, and then you type in DMSEG, MESG, and then look and see if you can find it. And mine's up here a little bit. You need to get an identification, so here it is right here. New interface, and that's what I have. And then this means that it worked, and it's hooked up, and it's working. So this article kind of goes over what you need to do, and I won't go over that in detail. I'll let you do that. Let's type in LSUSB, and we need some information in order to bring up a module so that this will work. And it's these numbers right here. That's what you're looking for. So what you need to do is tell your computer, your Linux kernel, to bring up this module for this specific driver. And the way you do that is right here. And that information for vendor and the product are these numbers here, as you see. You got 0x067b, and the product is the 0x2303. So you can put this in your terminal and just type that. You'd have to do sudo and then type in the mod probe, USB serial, etc., etc. And that'll bring up the module, and then you can use that USB to serial port adapter. Now, you probably don't want to do that every time, so you need to register that to Wine. Here's what and I'll go over that in just a second. Here's the adapter on the actual Dahdidah PDF manual. These are the pins I'm using. plus 2 more, the ring indicator, and the DCD. And that's what it looks like from the chassis point of view. And you can look at that on the show notes. So once you find out and it gets registered, to get it to wine, this is the code that I used. And I used COM12 on my Dahdidah, since when I opened this up the first time it already had 1 through 9, so I couldn't use those. So I just picked an arbitrary number, and that's the one I used for this command here. So COM12 instead of COM1. And similar structure on how to get this over to wine, because you need that in DOS devices. And let's take a look at that. So I'm going to go to my wine folder. There's DOS devices. And there's COM12. So that's working. That all worked. It got registered. This command here, as soon as I can find it, this command here is what I put in etc. modules. So let's go to etc. and let's go to modules. And this is the command. So when it rebooted, it automatically put this driver. Then it works every time that way. You don't have to do the terminal command. This is another command just to see if it's working or not. So let me bring that one up. And then everything's looking good. I have a 9-pin USB to serial port adapter. So that's all good. You also, for this to work, you have to be in the dial-out. So you type sudo usermod -a -G dial-out, and then whatever you have as your username. And then once you're in the dial-out, you'll have to reboot for that to take. Then you'll have your commands will go through without any problem. This again is that link, so that TTY USB 0 gets over to wine and creates a COM12 port, and that's how Dahdidah picked it up. Okay, I think that's all the diagrams. This is kind of like a step-by-step procedure here. And you'll have to get all that stuff done. This is another tutorial. This will be in the show notes. So don't worry about trying to freeze the frame just so you can look at that. One of the advantages, once you've got this and it's working, what do you do with it? One interesting thing is we're using jack audio here. And here are the Dahdidahs that show up, so you can easily wire them inside this bay. And this is the sound card here. That's how I'm able to hear it. But I also have mumble input and mumble output available. And so you can talk to anybody on mumble that also has a similar setup. Here's the input. And there'll be in the show notes, there's another video on how to get that set up if you're interested. If you can also send this audio to a USB to an audio derived CW keying switch, and you can key your rig with it. So here's a little article about it, and that's the interface that I'm using. That's what it looks like. This will be in the show notes too. And there's another one that some people use, and they have a special transformer they get. I think it's still available. So you could send the audio from Dahdidah, and I'm going through a little bandpass filter just so it sounds a little bit better. And You see this right here? This is a sound card that I have going to that circuit. So you would just take the output, draw a wire to that circuit, and that would turn that audio voltage into a keying switch, and then you can key your rig with it, just like it says here. So on the output right there, that goes to the CW jack, and ground is right here at the bottom where this black wire is. And when that audio comes in, it gets rectified by these diodes and stored in these two capacitors, and it activates a positive voltage with enough current to open up this gate on this transistor, this NPN, which generally shorts enough anyway with a low resistance from the collector to the emitter. And that's what keys your CW keying jack. And it's very accurate in its timing. And I've heard good reports on this one too. So that's how we're taking Dahdidah, and we're also able to hear it here to our sound card, but we're able to send that same audio over to this sound card. And I have a Behringer UCA222 that I'm using, and I have that hooked to that circuit. And in jack audio, you just have these two commands here. I think it's this one right here. And it's just a zeta command, and that'll be in the show notes. So we have for the input and the output of my UCA222, which is hardware 7. In order to find out that, just type in A record-L, and there it is right here, this USB audio codec. So now I can use those commands and get that sound card in here so I can wire up to it. And the same thing for the other one, A play-L, and it's the same one, so it's 7. So I know what the hardware devices are, and I can use this Zeta. If you have the Zeta AJ bridge, which is in your Synaptic Package Manager, download that first if you want to use Zeta. You can also use ALSA in or ALSA out. I prefer Zeta for actual hardware sound cards. So audio from rig on this side right here. That's the -J command, lets you rename it. Over here, the -J to rename it is audio to rig. So that allows me to not only send audio to that sound card to the circuit that keys my rig, I can also receive audio from the rig. And I'll just give you a little static here. That's the audio from the rig. So I could hear the rig's audio and send CW to the audio. One nice thing about this is you could also bring in some plugins to filter the audio. So let's try M equalizer here. So I could take the audio through this plugin, and then we can adjust it. So you can use it as a notch filter. You can set up peak filters. Change the Q. Anyway, that's the basic idea. And that's just one of the many plugins that you can use to filter the audio from your rig and make it a little easier to copy. This is my USB mic, which I'm using to record this video. Okay, let's go back to Dahdidah. So the basic steps are you need to download Wine, and I'll show you in the package manager how to do that. You also need jack audio. And I'm using KXstudio's apps because it makes it so much easier, and it's really... So let me get to Wine here. This is what I have for Wine. I have the KXstudio Meta Wine. I have Wine RT. The 64, 386. I have the Wine ASIO driver, which is what Dahdidah is using, so you'll need that too. I have that as well. Let's go over to CARLA now. And this is how I'm using CARLA. All of these. And that's the jack audio connection bay. And then KXstudio. This is what I have from the default settings. I have all the meta audio plugins. I have the repos. That's how you get most of it in here. You need to download the repos first. And those will be in the show notes how to do that, and the scripts. And I have one other tool from KXstudio, Cadence. That's like a secret weapon. Cadence is right here, and it allows you two different plugins which are very nice. The ASIO to Jack plugin, Pulse Audio to Jack plugin, which I'm not using at the moment. This is sort of like QJack control to configure it similarly. That's my settings here. And this is my setting for wineasio. So that's basically all you have to do. The main hoops are trying to get your USB to serial port adapter to register. And a lot of them are pretty cheap. And I'm using the Prolific driver. I think the FTDI is another one out there. So look that over. Check out the tutorial here. And this is another tutorial which I'll include. You get it into your etc. modules so that it keeps rebooting. Hook up however many pins that you want. And I think that's just about all you have to do. It doesn't take that long. You need if you want to use your rig, you need to get a little circuit there. It's just a little bit of a hoop, and just getting jack audio set up can be a little daunting at times. But if you do the KXstudio way and use the CARLA Git version, which if you'll back up the video and freeze that frame, you'll see all that I downloaded. To configure CARLA, I'll show you that. The engine, this is how I have mine configured. The paths are mainly concerned with if you include Windows VST plugins. That's where I have mine, so you just tell it where those folders are. I have both 32 and 64, but they all work in CARLA. And then I have also VST3 plugins in these two locations for 32-bit and 64-bit, and those work. Then you hit OK, and then hit Add Plugin, hit Refresh, hit Start, make sure all these are clicked, and it'll find every plugin in here. And then you can apply some plugins and use DSP on this audio, which I'm doing right here, which is a bandpass filter that's included with Linux. This is an LV2 plugin, and it just helps to clean up Dahdidah. So Jack Audio lets everything come into this connection bay so that you can wire it up just like you want it. This is the default ASIO module, ASIO to Jack module. So normal computer audio will come into here, and I just use in a little AGC circuit. So a lot of times YouTube videos aren't the same volume. That keeps it pretty much the same volume, especially if you're using headphones or something, or the person's too soft or it's too loud. You can kind of control that. This is another video here how to get these loopback cables. One neat thing about Linux is it has its own virtual audio cables. You can, in as many as you want. And I'm using 2 of them right now for mumble input and mumble output. And briefly, I'll go over those commands. Hold a second. Let me open it with text editor. I'm using ALSA in since it's a loopback cable. And I'm using, for the mumble output, I'm using loopback cable 2, just 1 channel, and 48K is the sample rate. And for the mumble input, I'm using ALSA out. I'm using the loopback cable 1 channel, because mumble's just 1 channel. ALSA is a little picky, so you have to, if this doesn't work, you have to change something. Probably something isn't right. And the rate, I'm using 48K, and again, the -J is just to change the name so I can see it in jack audio. Right here and here. Again, very convenient. And you can do that with any software that allows you to choose your ALSA sound card. You can choose that loopback cable. So in Mumble, I choose the appropriate cables. I'm using the plug HW, and that's the only one I found that works in Mumble. So there's 1, 1. I'm using 1, 0 on the terminals, and the other side of that loopback is 1, 1. And for the output, here's 2, 1 right here. As you look in here, there's a lot of sound card choices. But there's another video about this if you're interested. But it's really nice. Once you've got your pedals hooked up, what do you do with it then? Besides just listen to it yourself, it's really a lot of fun to key your rig with it, or to talk to somebody else on the internet and use audio tones, Morse code audio tones, to communicate with each other like we're doing on ICW and using Mumble. But you could also do this with Skype. There's a lot of internet, WebRTC. There's a lot of browser-based audio conference, even audio-video conferences you can do this with. So that's the basic setup, how to get Dahdidah CW keyer in 3 instances to have both pedals, straight key and bug. Thanks for watching.